All right, we're going to start off with a scarf from Dollar Tree, and I like this one with the popsicles. Very festive and fun. I'm going to use the remainder of the red burlap that I had. I've got some thrifted ribbon, and these were 75 cents at Walmart. And then I have a wreath. Now this is the middle size wreath. This is not the large one. Pipe cleaners are going to help us hold our wreath together. So we're going to start by going to the outside there, and that is going to make our first loop, and we're going to do these on each of those crossbars, and there are 6 of those, so across each one we're going to go right across there, and you can see it's like toward the middle. You can see that, right? Toward the middle. I might have said outside, but it is toward the middle. I'm going to twist these around here and push them to the outside. And now we're going to go to the outside, and we're going to go across 2 bars. So we're going to go across a middle and an outside loop. Middle and an outside loop. And we're going to do this all the way around. We will end up with 6 of these pipe cleaners on the wreath. We're going to start laying down a burlap base. So I'm just gonna, this is something that I've had, if you haven't been around here for long, this is some that I bought a long time ago, and I have had it in my stash and not used it, so here we go. Let's use it. Let's use that stash up. Can y'all believe I have not been to the Goodwill bins in like 2 months? It is crazy. For me, yeah, it's crazy because I was going, like trying to go once a week or once every 2 weeks, so I'm having withdrawals, just so you know, but I'm going to work on that. Now, we're going to start on the outside, or in the middle here. Measure down 5 or 6 inches. Now, if you do 5 inches, your poofs are just going to be a little bit smaller. The bigger your poofs are, you know, a little bit bigger that base is going to be, or fatter at least. It's going to be bulkier. But I want enough in here so that it looks plump. I want a nice little full wreath, and I think that in the end you will see that I believe we did accomplish that. So this isn't even an entire roll that I'm going to be using here, and it works fine. And we are going to do the inside, outside, inside, outside, inside, outside, all the way around until we get back to the beginning. And then that's easy enough done, because you just clip it off and then start back right where you started originally. See, here's where we started originally, but we're going in the, you know, continuing to go around in a circle. I'm going to still pull up that same amount of loop, twist it in right on top of that original first loop that we had, and then you can just trim off your excess. Don't cut it too small, because if you fluff and you have it very, very small, when you fluff, you may pull it out of your tie, and then you'll have to start over, or at least redo that section. So just, you know, just to help you out. Now, as always, let's fluff. You got to fluff them out, right? Make sure that everything's secure. If anything comes loose, go ahead and wrap it back until you get this look. Okay? Now we're going to go on the inside here, and right around the crossbars of the inside, we are going to make 6 of these on the inside. So this is not going to wrap directly around the middle, and it can slide back and forth on the frame. Just try to get 1 in each section, spaced out about the same amount. And we'll start doing the intersection. Probably could have done this without cutting it off, you know, just continued around, but this was kind of a last minute thing. You know what I said about working on emotion, kind of going with your gut? That's what I was doing. But once I got that done, I was like, well, let's go ahead and do something on the inside and really bulk this up. So I'm not measuring these, but this is going to be about 5 or 6 inches, about the same size as the other ones. The poofs will not be as large, but they will be, well, let me rephrase that. They're going to be longer, but they will be as tall as the bubbles you already have in there. So we're just going to go all the way around, and then it's the same process. Once you get back to your original spot, you can just trim it off, and then the form of that base will be done, and we'll start doing the fun stuff. You see, this is really easy to do. And if you use red pipe cleaners and you have a vision problem, you might not be able to find these. So if you want to do a contrasting color, you definitely can. You see the silver really stands out with this red, so that does help me to see and quickly be able to continue with my projects. Here's that scarf. I'm going to bunch that pretty little scarf up in my fingers, and we're going to treat it almost like we would a piece of ribbon or burlap. Find a starting spot, give yourself about 2 inches to start, and then poke that down into your wreath frame. Then you're going to make a little poof, and I'm not measuring here because the idea of this is that it is just going to rest right on top of the loops that are under it. So if you just lightly pull it across, see, you can lightly pull it and then tuck it down, twist it in tightly, and then you can pull it out and it will sit on top of that red that's underneath it. So it gives it a little body so that the thin scarf is not flopping around. I found this is a very easy way to use a scarf in a project as a ribbon or another type of embellishment. It's just another option. If you don't have a scarf, you can just grab another roll of burlap in a contrasting color maybe and use that here. I thought when I was making this wreath, I wanted to do something that was vintagey and kind of Americana, kind of a mixture, like my own little idea. And I think in the end, I accomplished that. But I encourage you to do your own thing. You know, make it your own and do whatever you like. You don't have to like what I did here, but I want you to take that inspiration and do what you can with it. I don't know why I always get so excited about 4th of July and patriotic wreaths. It must be something about the colors or maybe the festivity of it, you know? I'm not sure. Okay, so you see we have some room left where we did not have enough of that, but that's okay because I planned on adding a really pretty bow. But first we need to work on our ribbon stacks, and I'm going to give you some options in a minute. We're going to cut these in 8-inch pieces. I'm going to give you some options and you can decide here what pattern you want to use, just to, you know, in case you don't like the way I do it. So here's one. Of course your tails would be finished, they'd be dovetailed or cut at a slant, keep that in mind. You could do something like this and use 4 pieces like that. Or even something just as simple as this. But this is the one I'm going to go with, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it down and make my little dovetails. Get this a nice finish. This is a very thick burlap wired ribbon. It is very thick. So I think it was from Walmart. It has a very thick and crisp, I don't even know how to explain it. You know when you get a good quality ribbon and you're like, wow, that is really thick and nice. This is a sturdy ribbon. And because it has some wire in it and the ribbon that's on top does not, this is going to make it really much easier for us to have some body in that ribbon stack. So I've just got a little piece of burlap or some jute cord or string, and yeah, I might have cut that piece a little too small. Try to give yourself a little more wiggle room here. And then I'm just going to slowly pull it together so that it will not flip that bow over. And then tie a couple of knots to keep it secure. If it's in the back, it's not in the way, and you don't even have to bother removing that or cutting that off. So I like the look of that. I think that is very cute. If you're wondering why I'm using the burlappy colors, or I am using that Americana or folky color, it just matches to me the cones and parts of the colors, the sticks, and all that in those popsicle sticks. So I thought, okay, this is the opportunity to bring some of that in. Flip it over. and do the same thing. So if you didn't get it the other time, now you can see what I'm doing. Kind of squishing it toward the middle with my fingers, and when I'm tying it, I do the same thing. I kind of flip them as they start to flip over, kind of push them down and pull them into that knot. It's going to squish them together and make them kind of puff up just a little bit, and that's the idea with those shorter ribbons because they're not very thick. But look how pretty this is once you get it done. We're going to work with just the center sections, and we're only going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, because that red spot down in the bottom is where we're going to have our pretty bow. So this is how it looks so far. I love the combination. Very cute, and it's definitely something different, so I did make it my own. So now we're going to go to our ruler here, and we're going to do, does that say 16 inches? 16 or 18 inches? 16, 17, 18, yes. And we're going to cut 3 strips of each of the ribbons that we want to use in the bow at that same amount. So I've grabbed up some Dollar Tree ribbon, some of my thrifted ribbon, and then we're going to bring this all together. I'm going to use a pipe cleaner and a zip tie, and we'll start putting these together. Now for this one, we are going to slide that ribbon up. So you're going to go halfway up with your loop. This is going to be about, I think it's a 4 or 5 inch. A 6 inch. It is a 6 inch loop. Okay, but notice with this one we just have one tail. Okay, one tail. We're going to get that loop, make sure that we have about 1 inch left in our hand, and then we'll start with the next one. I'm tucking this in really tightly because for this one, this is going to be a challenge to my small hands, right? Same measurement. You want your loops to be exactly the same, and you can measure them against each other. I'm going to grab alternating patterns and colors of the ribbon because I don't want 2 things right next to each other. It's a little harder to fluff out once you get ready to use your bow. And the stars and the checked ribbon or the gingham ribbon, they are not wired, so just keep that in mind. Same process. I'm going to start my pattern over with the striped, and then I'll grab the stars. I have not moved my hand or my grasp at all. The whole time I'm doing a funky bow, I never let go of that stack. I continue to hold it in my hand. Okay, that's important. Don't let go of it unless you've got a clamp or something that you're using to hold it for you instead. Okay, so far so good. And then here is our last 3 pieces of ribbon that we're going to add here. I've got this one, and then the stars. You can see I'm still leaving a little bit underneath because I have to have something to grab onto so that my loops don't fall apart. And a zip tie is really good. You want to put in get your zip tie ready, slip that little pipe cleaner in there with that because you're going to use that to attach it. And then you're going to tighten that up super tight. A good quality zip tie will allow you to pull that without breaking off. And so far, the ones that I have found thrifting and the ones I've found at Dollar Tree have held tight to all of my bow fluffing. Now, for all these long tails, I'm going to dovetail them. And you'll see me you see how we have the extras under there? That just shows us that we have it locked in up underneath that zip tie. Nothing's coming out because it's all locked in. Now, vigorous fluffing of this bow, people. I pull the tails down and away from each other. I'm going to flip the tails down so that the bottom where it hangs, all the tails will be underneath it. I love doing a bow like this. So I'm going to pull those out now because that's going to be the bottom section, and try to separate the patterns as much as I can. Again, if you need to use a little bit of hot glue to tack here and there with those tails, you can do that so that you can see them all. Really fluff that top up, and then it makes the perfect size bow to go right on the side of that wreath. That can be your bottom, your side, the top. I'm going to put it off to the right side, and I'm just going to twist it down to the frame, and then do a little more fluffing. That's why we didn't need to use any more bow stacks that we used, because we just would have been covering up with this big bow. So I'm going to pull and work with those ribbons that don't have wire. Just gonna make sure that they're kind of fluffed, and if you give them a little tension, sometimes they'll stay out like they should. What a beautiful bow for this wreath though. I really like it. And that it has that white in there that is in the scarf, so it brings the white in too with all of that burlap. It just gives it a little extra something, I think. Once that bow is on there, you can go ahead and trim if you want to trim, cut things down if you want to. You can start adding some embellishments. Now these came from TEMU. Oh my goodness. I'm not sponsored. Just gonna go ahead and tell you that. But these little vintage 4th of July pieces are adorable. And they match so well with that old look that I was going for. So kind of Americana, I think. I'm going to put some hot glue on here and then place them down on the bows. I don't want to lay them completely flat. I want them to be glued down, have enough surface to glue to without them being just shoved into the wreath. You want things to look like to keep it dimensional anyway, you want things to look like they are kind of layered but sitting comfortably on top of each other, not smashed flat. I hope that makes sense. I think you know what I'm talking about. That's the same thing that we do with bows. You know, we want bows to give us dimension and we want to fluff them up so they have that free look. And we want everything to get a little bit of attention. I just alternated the single children with the little 2 children all the way around. So 1 child, 2, 1 child, 2, like that all the way around until we get back to the bow, because obviously we don't need to put anything in the bow. Look at this pretty wreath. Now if you wanted to at this point, you could put some type of a hanger on the back. I usually just use a little piece of jute to make a tie, but you can also use a little bit of pipe cleaner, maybe even one of the pieces you cut off when you trimmed it down, and just put that on the back so you have something to hang your wreath with. Or you can hang it directly through the wire frame, which you can still get to. So before we finish any project, we go back, trim down what we need to trim down, and I decided to cut these a little bit shorter to give them a little more, kind of blend in a little bit better over there. And then this is how it's gonna look. I really like this wreath. Really like it. I hope you enjoy it too. Of course, we're gonna need some pipe cleaners, 9 to be exact. We're going to need some different ribbons, so you can use Dollar Tree ribbon, whatever you got. I'm going to use the remainder of this 10-inch roll of mesh. I have some ornaments that I thrifted and an 18-inch wreath form. I'm also going to be using 1 roll of burlap that is blue from Walmart. Okay, so now we need to prep this wreath form. We're going to take our chenille stems or pipe cleaners. We're going to go on the inside and then the outside. I'm crossing over 2 of them, okay? Not just 1, but 2. It's going to make it a little bit more stable because we're going to be putting several layers on here. So now we're back to the outside, and we're just doing this right here where those little crossover sections are. So inside, outside, inside, outside, and continue around till you're back to the beginning. We're going to take the deco mesh, squish this up in our fingers, and this is going to be our little starting point. I'm grabbing it tightly. I'm going to choose a place to put it. Generally, putting it on the inside is a good idea to kind of hide it, but you can put it wherever you like, and twist it down tightly. Then we'll go to the next section. We're going to have 12-inch poofs here, so I'm going to measure down. If you use a 5-inch deco mesh, your wreath is going to be very spindly looking because it's a large wreath. So if you're using a larger wreath, it's a pretty good idea to use a wider deco mesh, okay? And I know not everybody is a fan of deco mesh, so y'all just stay with me though, because this is going to be worth it. We're really just kind of using this deco mesh as a stabilizer, right? To put everything else on. So it's not going to be center stage. All right? Go down 12 and then go to the outside. So we're going inside, outside, just following the pattern that's already on there that we created with the chenille stems. We're going to go all the way around the wreath. Once you get back to that starting spot, We're going to take another 12-inch poof, place it down right over the top of where we started, and wrap it tightly. Now don't cut it off yet because we're going to go around one more time. Okay, so you're going to pull it to the inside or the outside, depending on which way you are. You're going to go the opposite of where you already were. I'm going to do the 12 inches again, and you're going to be going back and forth and back and forth, and it's going to create a little poof to the left and a little poof to the right. Pulling it out there, squeezing it up in the middle, and wrapping it down. So you can see back and forth, and we'll do this back and forth motion all the way down. If you lose track of where you're at, you can pretty much tell where the poof is, and you want to put it on the opposite side so that there's a bubble that goes all the way across your wire wreath frame. Does that make sense to you? You see what I'm talking about, right? Now you want to continue around the entire wreath this same way. If you have one of those mats that you can cut on, you can use that to measure as well. Back to the beginning, I'm going to cut it off, and actually that was the end of my roll, and I just put it down on top. Now we have all the deco mesh we need to fuss with. All the edges are tucked under, so there shouldn't be too much of an issue of snagging whatsoever. And now we're going to be putting this burlap on it. The burlap's going to give us a little buffer between the deco mesh, which has a tendency to kind of snag, and the ribbons that we're going to put down. So we'll just start wherever you like. You can go back to the original starting place, or you can start wherever you want to on your wreath, because it's going to be covered up. You're not going to see it. Now we're going to take that and sit it right on top of the bubble. So you're going to set it on the bubble, and you can see here it's about 10 inches. You want it to sit on the bubble because the deco mesh is going to support the burlap. If you make it too big, it's going to sag. I don't want mine to sag. I want it to run right down the center, be nice and pretty. So I'm not going to do that. 10 inches. See? Turn your thing straight though. Got to get that ruler straight. Pinch it up, and then go to the next one. So it's going to be sort of, you're following the same pattern, so in and out, in and out, in and out. But essentially, I'm settling mine right over the top. Now you can move it back and forth once you get to the end of it and you're done with all of your little poofs of your burlap. You can go back and forth with it and move that burlap to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right, so that it's kind of, looks like it's kind of weaving through there. Totally up to you how you want to do it. But I like to sit mine right on top. You can see where we're going, right? Now we're going to go all the way around. You're going to go back to the beginning point, just like we did the deco mesh. We're going to go right into that section. When you do a wreath that's got this many layers on it, you want to be sure you use a full size pipe cleaner, meaning don't cut those down trying to save money. It's not worth it. You will not have enough room left to put all the layers on it. Okay, so just take my word for it. All right, so I'm just cutting it off, and I just did a little dovetail. That it makes no sense. Whichever way you want to do it, you can cut it off straight. You won't be seeing those little sections that are the ends anyway, as we try to tuck those under. Now I'm just fluffing out the poofs, and I'm settling that burlap right on the top of it. Trying to see what we have going on here, how we like it. And I prefer the blue anyway. I love the way that blue looks, and it goes right down the middle. So now you're going to grab up whatever ribbon you have. This is from Dollar Tree. I've had it since last year, but they do have it again this year from what I've seen at my stores. And I'm going to cut these into 12-inch pieces. And then I'm going to take this one that I have thrifted. I'm going to put it down and do 12-inch pieces. This one from Dollar Tree. I like the mixing of the patterns for this. Now we can start putting them down. I've already done the dovetail. Y'all have seen me do that before. And now we're just going to start putting our little stacks of 3 together. I do this very often when I make wreaths. I love the look of it. It's so festive to me and colorful, and you can add a variety of patterns and color, and it really makes your wreath pop. And that's the idea when you have a wreath on your door, right? You want it to grab attention. You want to You want to see that and make you smile every time you come in the door. You want your guests to see it and, you know, put a smile on their face as well. So let's give it some personality by giving it some different textures and patterns. That's why we're mixing the burlap here. We're mixing the stripes with the sort of a checkered look, you know, and then the stars. All right, so I did not have enough of my striped star ribbon. So what I decided to do is take part of the ribbon and to cut it into sections so that half of the wreath would have stars and the other half would just have a stripe and a plaid. So just follow the pattern here. So the original has 3, the second space has 2. The next will have 3. That's what you see in my hand right now. I make an X, put one down the middle, and just squish them up in the center. Hold them in my hand, push it down into the space between the bubbles, and then wrap that chenille stem tightly around it a few times. Then you can kind of fluff it out, or you can wait to do the fluffing once you get to the end. It is totally up to you. I love to fluff, so I am constantly fooling with my ribbons and my bows. So we did 3, and now we're back to 2. Do you see what we're doing here? Now, you are welcome if you have enough of your ribbon, because my roll was not a new roll. I used some of it last year. So you are welcome to go all the way around with 3s if you would like, but you can do it with 2s. You can make it work, right? So I'm showing you the layout of the pattern. Once you get all of those on there, you're going to grab whatever ornament, ball, whatever you want to put on yours. You can even do flowers if you wanted to. But these are like a paper mache, and they're so nice. Y'all, I found these at the thrift store with some other sort of patriotic decor stuff, and I think that's where I got that mesh from as well. Like somebody had a Christmas tree, possibly, like a tree that they decorated, and I got a lot of stuff from it. So yeah, I was very excited to find those. I love the look of it. So I'm going to put another one in there. When y'all were kids, did y'all play with those little smoke bombs? Do you know they still make those things? My kids enjoy them too. They smell terrible, but they really are sort of mesmerizing, all the different color smokes that come out of them. They're really nice. And I don't think the mosquitoes are a big fan of them either, so that's a plus. You're going to go all the way around. And I'm loving this, but this wreath just like it is. We're not even going to put a bow on here. This is exactly perfect the way it is, in my opinion, because I made it my own. And you are so encouraged to make yours your own. You want to add a bow, you can do that. You want to add a sign in the middle, you can certainly do that too. And we don't need a hanger because it's a wire wreath form. We can just hang it right off of the form itself. So I hope you like this first one. We have 4 more to go, and you really want to stay till the end. If you enjoy this kind of content, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up to let me know you care. So we're going to start off with some pipe cleaners, some burlap. We're also going to need deco mesh that is not seen here. You're going to need a variety of ribbons, at least 3 different kinds, preferably wired, but if not, I'm going to show you how to fix that. And I'm going to use some jute. This is an 18-inch Dollar Tree wreath. I got mine at the thrift store. We're going to start off by putting down our chenille stems. So I started off without turning on the camera, so I took them off and I'm going to show you again. We're going to go around the middle bar and the center ring. This way it doesn't slide around. You can see what I'm doing here, under, kind of making an X over it. Going to twist it just a few times, and you're going to go all the way around your wreath, doing this to every one of those little crossbars. Very easy. This is what we're going to use to attach our ribbons and our deco mesh down to this wreath. It's kind of a combo wreath. I wanted to do something a little bit different, and I love the way it turned out. So I hope you'll keep watching. Okay, now we're going to loop over the inner ring and the outside ring and put a little twist in there to hold it still. Now it can still move between, it can kind of slide up and down there, but that's not going to be a problem once you get your poofs on, and you'll see what I mean shortly. If it bothers you that they're moving around, you can use a little bit of hot glue to hold it in place. No problem at all. Continue around like this until you get every little section with a stem, a chenille stem, a pipe cleaner on the outside. So you are going to end up, when you are finished, with 16 of these little ties all the way around. Alright, so I've got some scraps of deco mesh, and wonderful miracles happen every day. Proof will be shown to you in a moment. So this is 20 inches. I thought I would have enough to go around this entire wreath. However, I do not. And I find that out once I get toward the end of the roll and not the end of the wreath. So, not a problem though. Not a problem. I'm going to place down a section of that after I've gathered it up. I'm going to press it firmly into the center of one of those middle wires, just like that, and then just push it through to the back. Now I'm going to use my ruler to show you. Most of the time when I'm doing this off camera, I just kind of guess. I don't really measure it every single time, but it's completely up to you. For demonstration purposes and to show you, I'm going to be measuring it just so you know what we're doing. So I think I took a 10-inch poof there. I'm going to show you the measurements here. Yep, 10 inches. And I'm just going to make a poof in the inside, then I'm going to go to the outside. Then we'll go back to the inside, and then after that one's done, we'll go to the outside. We're just going to follow it all the way around. It's sort of a little back and forth motion. 10 inches, I'm measuring it, and I'm just going to twist it around. And those little extras, you can just cut those off. They're not going to be, sometimes with deco mesh, they'll come, like they'll pull loose, and I noticed that with Dollar Tree mesh, that happens a lot. This mesh that I'm working with today actually came from the thrift store. And the burlap ribbon that I use came originally from Walmart. I got it on clearance at Walmart years ago, and I've just held on to it, as crafters often do. We hang on to things. So I thought, you know what? I've got some blue over there, so let's just add some blue, and we'll make this kind of, kind of like you would have an American flag. Most of it is red and white, and then you have a section of it that's blue. So I thought we'll give it a try. So this was sort of an experiment. I'm going to untwist my little tie here and holding everything together, place that blue in, put the little frayed tail from the edge up underneath there with the other one, and then tightly twist it down. You can see my freckles, and I have a little bit of a sunburn. Okay. So this deco mesh is smaller than the other one. I think the other one's 20 inches. This is like a 10-inch deco mesh. So it's thinner. I'm going to use the same size poofs, but I'm going to go over it twice to give it more bulk. So you'll see what I mean. Same process. We're going to go to the inner ring, then the outside, then the inner, then the outside, until we get all the way back to where where the red and white stop over there. So you'll see here. I just wanted to leave all this in because some people really need to see it all. So I'm leaving it in for you. And I'm going to get back to the end and I'm going to twist it. Now rather than cutting it off, we're going to double it back over on itself. And we're going to do 10 inches again, and that's going to give us about 20 inches like the other one, and we should have approximately the same coverage. So I'm just going back over. So you made another little poof. And I'm just going to go back over right where we came from in the same pattern and place that back down. And you can see the difference in the poof on the left and the poofs on the right. You get a lot more coverage there, and I really like the look of this. So that might be something for you to think about. If you get your deco mesh at Dollar Tree, maybe double it up. If you get it at the thrift store, but it's a remnant and you don't know if you'll have enough, go ahead and patch things together. This is one of those little happy accidents that, the great Mr. Bob told us about a long time ago. Happy little accidents, like the little happy trees. And it's worked out perfectly. All right, at this point, you're probably going to look at your wreath and go, what in the heck? This looks terrible. It looks sad. Don't be discouraged. Do not worry. Believe that this is going to get better, because it does. It's just kind of thin right now, kind of thin, kind of sparse, a little sad, but it's going to look better. So start fluffing out your poofs a little bit, and you can see you got more coverage, right? It looks a little bit better as you go along, fluffing everything out. And then we're going to be adding layers onto it. We're going to put burlap on it. We're going to put little ribbon stacks in there. We're going to add a bow to it. She's going to look fabulous shortly. Give her some time. She's going to look fabulous. So you see I've got my blue. I want to keep that sort of on the top and on the left, and then the rest of that red and white is going to be on the right. So now we're going to start with this burlap. I'm going to take a section of it. That's about, I don't know, an inch or two, bundle it up in my hands, and then loop it over. Same thing, 10-inch little poofs here. Gather it in your fingers, poof it up. Now, for me, at some point here while I'm filming, I stop measuring, because a little thing you could know, once you get to this point and you've got your base down with your deco mesh, that burlap that goes on top, you're just going to be laying it right down on top of that other poof. So the measurements are exactly like what's underneath it, essentially. You know, make sure that that little covering just lightly sits on top of the base that is under there, the deco mesh. If you do that and you can stop using the ruler, this process will go on a lot quicker. Although I have to say, this is not really the most lengthy part. It's usually the cutting all of the little strips of ribbon to make your little ribbon stacks that take the most time, for me anyway, and all that dovetailing, you know, all those little special details that make it look so great in the end. That's the part that takes me the most time, and I don't show you all of that. Okay, so we're back to the beginning where we put that first little section of burlap down. You're just going to cut off enough that you can tuck it under and right through the frame. Now you can start to pull your burlap and your deco mesh poofs apart. So they're back and forth, kind of crisscrossed over each other. So you want to pull the burlap to one side and the deco mesh to the other side. Back and forth. So deco mesh, burlap, burlap, deco mesh, back and forth, back and forth. You see that? It almost looks like the burlap is kind of threaded through the deco mesh. Do you get what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying? And just by pulling those apart, look how much fuller the wreath is already. Look how much better that looks already. Yep. Okay, so now start on the little stacks of ribbons here. This is thrifted ribbon. Surely you can get something like this at Michael's, but you know, Dollar Tree, I'm gonna tell you, I was in there recently. They have some beautiful 4th of July and patriotic ribbons that are burlap with stars. And I think there was one with trucks and fireworks. I don't have those yet. I'm just using up what I've got, but I will be getting some more goodies because I love decorating for the patriotic holidays. So we're cutting them in 10 inches and we're going to dovetail the ends, and I'm going to do the same thing with the red and white and this beautiful fabric trim that I found. I found it at Goodwill. We're going to make it stiffer, or we're going to make it wired, I guess we could say, by just doubling it over on top of some of this Dollar Tree burlap. This is such a simple process. And this is just cotton that's on top, but isn't this a beautiful ribbon? Alright, so I'm going to start off by just cleaning off the end of my glue gun here. And then I'm going to do zigzags and lines right in the center. Because it's the thickest part, it's not going to stick to the table. It's not going to make a mess and burn me. So I'm just going to focus mainly in the middle of that ribbon where the lace is sewn on the other side. You can certainly do this with the lace side up. I just didn't do it that way, but you can if you want to. And then pat it down, rub it, and then you can start cutting off your sections. This one we're going to cut at 9 inches. We're going to cut this one a little bit shorter. And then it's going to get dovetailed as well. So you're going to have 16 of each ribbon that you choose to use. 16. You see, now we have like a wired ribbon. Perfect. Perfect. I love doing this. Continue along just like this until you get the right amount of each of your ribbons. And then here are my 3 patterns. I'll show you how we're going to stack them. We're going to make an X with the 2 10-inch ribbons in the back, and the 9-inch ribbon's going to go right in the middle. Just like that. You can use all 10 inches if you want to, but because this was a fabric bow that's a little floppier, even with the, you know, the other ribbon underneath it, I just thought that I would use it this way, and it helps me save that ribbon so I have enough for a bow in the end. Pinch it together. You can use clips and do them all at once, or you can do it one at a time and just open up where you have your little twist ties. Not the twist ties, the pipe cleaners. Be sure you use full length pipe cleaners too. Don't cut these in half. You will not have enough because these are very bulky. This wreath is bulky and we're going to be adding a lot of things to it, so leave those whole. Then you're just going to place it down, twist it tightly so that it holds in the center of the little poofs, between the poofs, and then spread those ribbons apart. Here's another one. We're going to layer them across like this. Walk your fingers toward each other, kind of an accordion pleat in the middle. Hold on to it. Open up the little chenille stem or your pipe cleaner, whatever you want to call it, and twist it. You could certainly use floral wire, if you had to. If that was your only option, you could use that. You just have to be careful because you will poke your fingers with that stuff. And it's easier to find these chenille stems down in the fabric and the burlap and the, whatever you're using as your base than to use those skinny, thin little wires. And besides, these are cheap and you can get them at Dollar Tree and the Crafter Square. You can get a big package. So you can see how I fan those out. Make sure that you have your ribbons flipped over in the right direction once you get them down and you begin to fluff. At this point, it's not necessary for you to fluff if you don't want to fluff, but I do this throughout my entire process while I am making my wreaths. I pull them apart, I fluff them out, I check out the placement and seeing if they're slipping around on the wreath form underneath. You can add a little glue if you need to. If you pull anything loose, you can fix that. I like it. I like the way the ribbon feels, the mesh feels, so I don't mind it. Continuing around, all the way around. Now we're into the blue. We've overlapped our red and white, and now we're on to our blue section where the stars would normally be. Continue around. I don't want to bore y'all, but I want you to see what I'm doing because it is questionable when you start on a wreath sometimes. It does not start off beautiful, but it usually ends up that way. So we're down to the last little bundle and I'm pushing it down and twisting it around and then pulling those apart. You see, you pull them apart, fix your tails, flip them down and spread them out. And that is so much better. At this point, I'm not going to add anything extra into the center of these, so I'm going to take my wire cutters and I'm going to trim off all of my extra pipe cleaners. If you would like to, you can give it just one last final twist for good measure and then cut off what you don't need, or you can poke what you don't need back through the wreath into the bottom. Totally up to you. See, here I go again, fluffing everything out, but I'm telling you, y'all may be tired of watching me fluff all this stuff, but it makes a huge difference in the end. You don't want anything to look like you pulled it straight out of a box. No, you want it to be fluffed, you want it to be pretty, you want to have a representation of all of your colors. See how just flipping them out, just curving those tails under, pulling those out. Look how much more full that wreath is now. This wreath would be fine by itself once it's all fluffed out and pretty. I think it would be beautiful by itself with nothing else added to it. You could add some little wooden stars. You can maybe paint them if you like a little Americana look, add some little wood pieces in there if you would like. But this is how it looks, nice and fluffed. Love this. I really like it. But if we want to add extra, there's always little thrifted pieces like this little sign here. I have a star that could go, metal star could go in the middle. There are signs from Dollar Tree you could certainly put on there. That would be beautiful. They have gorgeous 4th of July things. These were from Target Dollar Spot and I got these at the thrift store. I recognize the tag. And then you could put these on anywhere you wanted. You could put a variety and you could put all that stuff on there if you wanted to. But I really like the color of this one. It's got kind of a creamy white background and it looks more of like an Americana or rustic look. So that's what I'm going to go with. And I have just a little bit of this beautiful trim left, and I'm just going to make like a shoelace bow. With this one, I'm not going to bother putting any backing on it at this point because I don't mind if it's a little bit floppy. This is so beautiful. I love finding ribbons at the thrift store because they're so different. And they're definitely lots of vintage ribbons that I have found and used in projects that I love. This is our wired ribbon. This is a very easy bow to do here. You saw how I did that. I don't need to tell you how to do that one, but if you have problems with bows, I do have a bow tutorial video with lots of different options for you. So maybe if you don't like this type of bow, you want something more full or bigger or with shorter tails or whatever, you can check that video out. I'll have it linked in the description box below, as well as any other links that I mentioned. You can find my Pinterest there. I've got lots and lots of free printables and helpful Cricut information and sublimation things. You could go over there and check that out. That's all linked. Now I'm just going to put these bows together by using that same piece of red jute to tie them down. And I decided that I needed to add some of the red and white checked ribbon that we used on our bundles just to keep it consistent all the way throughout. And I'm going to make that bow just a little bit smaller, the same way we made the other wired ribbon, because this one is wired. And then I'm going to struggle to tie it, just like you see me doing here. Polish is probably coming off soon. Okay, now you can decide where you want to put your bow. The top, the side, the bottom, wherever you would like. But I thought it would be pretty right at the bottom of the blue section of this pretty wreath. So I'm just going to push the jute through the wreath, put it onto the form, and then tie it down. If you tie it down really tight, it's going to sink your bow down into the frame. So if you're not looking to sink it down in there and you want it to be on top, be sure you don't pull it too tightly when you tie it on. And then it will kind of just rest in there with the rest of the fabric and the ribbons. And you can trim off what's left. My bow's all crushed. It's gonna be, you know how this works. Start fluffing. Y'all know the process by now. Fluff it up. Start pulling those wired ribbons, really kind of make them do what you want them to do. If you have your ribbon that's not wired in between wired ribbon, it helps to hold it in place. I'm just adjusting the size there of my middle bow. It's not glued, so it slides pretty easy for me when I want it to, but it stays in place though. And then decide what you want to do with your tails. Do you want to dovetail them? Do you want to cut them at slants? Would you like for your bow to have short tails or long tails? They can be equal, or you can cut them at different lengths. And I thought maybe doing it at different lengths would be pretty. It kind of reminds me of, you know, fireworks, how they pop in the sky and you have the bulk of the firework in one place and then you have the little sparklers that come down. I thought that would be kind of a good thing to do with my tails. So that's what I did. That's kind of what I was thinking of, how I was inspired when I did the tails. Get them how you like them. And then I'm going to put this little sign right underneath it. And it's pretty easy to do. It's already got a string on the back, so I'm just going to take a pipe cleaner and twist it down. It tightens up that string that is there on the back of the sign so that you won't see it, and it gives you something that you can attach that to without using any hot glue. So I'll just feed that through like I did the bow, cinch it down but not too tight. You don't want it to squish anything. I'm going to fix my bow how I want it and just kind of arrange it around the sign. And then if the sign needs any little extra hot glue or any more security, that can be done at this point. And I just used a little bit. I love this wreath. We're going to start off by making a swag for the door. And I'm just using a stick that I have here that came from Goodwill. You can use a stake from Dollar Tree items if you want to. You can use Decor mesh or you can use burlap ribbon, whatever you have, and some pipe cleaners, of course. And then I have a variety of ribbons. This one was thrifted. It's really, really nice. And then this one also I got from the thrift store. And this one came from Dollar Tree, so they have a lot of really pretty ones out right now. We'll be using the pipe cleaners as a way to attach the burlap or deco mesh that you choose to the stick. So I'm going to start off by just twisting one a few times and then pushing it off to the side. I'm going to grab the next one right underneath it or right on top of it, twist it off to the other side. Then you're going to put one in the middle here. So we're going to make ribbon stacks to go on here. You're just going to cut them, cut your ribbons, whichever ones you want to use. Try for a variety of about 3. Then we're going to assemble our little stake here. So you're going to start at the top on either side. It doesn't matter, or if it's in the middle, do it in the middle. My camera ate my footage, so I am using this footage from a different video because I've done many of these. These are 10-inch poofs that you're looking at, but for a smaller project like the one I was doing 8-inch poofs with my burlap. So you're going to continue along, going to the middle, going to the outside, going down to the middle, going to the outside, and then once you get to the bottom, you're just going to loop it, make a little poof, loop around to the other side. Very easy to do. So back to those ribbons, we are going to cut some dovetails in ours. You can do yours any way you want, but I found this makes a nice crisp look. So here's a variety of burlap and my other thrifted ribbons and my Dollar Tree ribbon, but I ran out. So I'm going to just fill in the blank with some of this plaid red and white ribbon. I'll be just kind of alternating throughout with that. To make the stacks, we're just going to make an X, and then we're going to take the next piece of the 3, put it right in the center, walk our fingers pinching toward each other for the little ribbon stack. I found this is about the easiest, most foolproof way to do these. I'm going to press down into the poof there, right where those twist ties are, and just twist that around. So now it is connected to our swag. Continue along, alternating patterns and colors in whichever way that you want to do it. You don't have to undo that all the way. You can leave it just like it is because you have full length pipe cleaner there, so you have plenty of room to twist and turn. Twist it down with a few twists, and then you can move on to the next section. Once you get all of your bows in place or your ribbon stacks in place, you can go back through there and straighten everything out. It's most ideal if you have wired ribbons, but if you cut them at 6 inches or lower, you can actually use unwired ribbons for this, and they will kind of hold their own. You can see that the star ribbon that I got from Dollar Tree is not wired, but it is nice and crisp, and it is standing up nicely in this little swag. Then you can choose your top and bottom, whichever one you like, and you get to embellish it now. So I have these little ornaments that I thrifted. You can use whatever you have. You can use things from the Dollar Tree. These are 2 Dollar Tree stakes that I cut the stars off of. This is a large star that you could use. Depending on what your taste is, you can use flags to go in the side and just attach them with wire or glue like this. Or you could use something like this, which is what I originally started off with. There's going to be a slight change though, so just to let you know. We're going to work on a bow now to go on the top, now that we've decided what we're going to use. So I have about 2.5 feet left of this white burlap, and it is wired, and I wanted to use it. So I'm just going to cut 2 more different ribbons at the same length. Easy enough to do, and these are all the same width. I think they're probably, what, 2 inches maybe? 2-inch ribbon. I'm going to use my bow maker tool here. If you have one, go ahead and use that, grab that. It makes making bows much easier, or you can make one. I'll link my video where I made my own. So I'm just going to pinch this up. I've got 8-inch tail. I know you can't see down there because it's not focused. And then I'm going to twist it over, fold it in the middle, and I'm going to have 4-inch loops. Then I go to the other side, pressing down in the middle. I'm going to grab it, fold it in, just fold it up there, press my bow down, and move those tails off to the top and bottom. I'm going to just layer my next ribbon on top and continue along. Now this ribbon does not have a one-sided pattern. It's got a pattern on both sides, which makes it easy because you don't necessarily have to do all the twisting and such for that. So it makes it pretty easy. And I'm going to pull my tails over. Now grabbing the last one, and this ribbon actually does have a front and back. So I will be doing a little twist here. You can see how I twisted it so that the pretty side is outward, or the stitch side will be inward. I'm just checking it there, and then I'm going to fold it over. Press it down, and again with my tails off to the top and bottom. I am going to grab some jute, but you can use another chenille stem if you want to, or you can use a zip tie, whatever you want to use. I'm just trying to get it up under there, just get it in place. I'm not going to tie it in a double knot at this point. I'm just using it to help me hold it until I get it off of my bow maker, and then I'm going to slide that over a little bit more to the other side so that it's in the middle. And once I get it in the center, I'll flip it over, give it a couple of tight knots, and then I can dovetail my ends. Feel free to slant these or whatever you like to do to finish off your bows. I'm going to do it to all of my pieces. Now you get to fluff the bow, and to me this is one of the most fun things to do. I love doing this. If you've watched enough of my videos, you probably already know that about me. It just makes such a big difference in the way it looks. Very nice. So now I'm going to find my spot here. I'm going to go underneath that top section, thread my jute right through the back, and then flip it over and tie it in place. You're going to give that a good couple of knots, and if you want to use your glue gun at this point, you can go ahead and do that, and you can glue down all of your little sections if you haven't done that already, where the little wires meet the board so that it won't slide around. Completely up to you. I always like to remind people that my videos are for inspiration. You might not like everything that I do. You might prefer to do it a different way, but I'm just here to inspire you, and then you're gonna do your own little twist. Do your own thing that makes you happy. So now that I have it in place, I can really look at it and decide, do I want things left as they are or trim them down? So you trim them down. I want to add a little bit more of this pattern because I had a little bit of this ribbon left, not much. So I am going to just cut that in half, and then I'm going to glue it in the middle of this bow. And the glue just neatly set down in there, and I can tuck this down and we don't see any glue, and you can just fluff your bow over the top so it looks like little tails there. Alright, so now to put the star on, I'm going to thread some of this jute through the top of the star in that little ring, and then attach it down on the stake the same way that I did the bow. Just going to thread it through the back and tie it in place. And here are some ideas for you to embellish. So there's a necklace there, there's some buttons here, and some little wood stars. Anything that you choose. You can put these all over and anywhere. I've decided that I want to use the necklace, so I'm just going to try to carefully cut it over my bucket so that I can catch all those beads and use them for another project. Once I get all my flags off, I am going to add some hot glue and then tuck them into the swag. Just here and there. There's really not a pattern. I just kind of look at it overall and decide what I want to go where. You can use table scatter for this if you want to. I think Dollar Tree has like stars table scatter, and you can use that. That would be really cute in here, really sparkly and glittery if you like that kind of a look better. My look is a little more on the rustic, like a rustic cottagey farmhouse look, so I prefer this. And then maybe one more on the bottom. Gives you an opportunity to check everything out. This is when I decided to take the other star off and replace it with this one. I felt like the colors just worked better with what I had going on, so I took one of those yard stakes and the ones that I had cut off with the stick, and then I'm just going to use that to glue down here. I add a little more glue so that it is not flopping around, but you could always wire this down if you wanted to. But I want to make sure that everything is holding up nicely. And this is how it's going to look. To make a hanger on the back, I'm just going to grab the ends of the jute from the bow. I'm going to make a knot on the end, and now we have an opening to hang it. Trim off the excess, refluff where needed, and it's good to go. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.